You're listening to the Outdoors Group podcast. This podcast is a call to arms to get children and young people outside again. It's your one-stop shop for all things outdoor, child, young person and education related. Thanks for tuning in. Over the time that this podcast has been running, we've mentioned the Outdoors School a lot, and we've chatted to staff, to parents and to learners on a range of different topics about the radical way that we approach education. Today we're merging that with our training theme of this series, and so we're back at South Brent with one of our lead tutors, Chris Leeds. Chris has generously agreed to chat to me before the learners arrive today about his experience of training with us and how he uses forest school in his everyday at the school. Thanks for joining us today, Chris.
No worries, thank you very much.
So before we launch into kind of forest school itself and the training, I just want to find out how you ended up at the Outdoors School. So what were you doing before and what brought you here?
So it's quite a journey. I started my degree in education studies and I hated sort of what it was doing, and then I was questioning whether or not this was what I wanted to do. And then I did a placement with Bernardo's charity at Lake Derwentwater doing raft building, and I loved it, working with traumatised kids. It felt really rewarding. So that was the start of everything. Then I worked in a secure unit and a few alternative provisions, and I ended up in a PRU for 3 years as a HLTA. And I struggled with the balance between saying that we do all these things that are therapeutic and all these things that are to meet learners' needs, but then being contradictory and forcing a learner to do a lesson that they're not ready to do, and then taking away their trip in the afternoon if they can't do it.
Yeah.
And I struggled, and I wanted to do something for myself, so I started my Wheeled Sports Academy company, and we went into schools teaching skateboarding and scootering skills, which I loved, but it just wasn't enough hours and it was eating into my hobby. And so I was doing agency work, just subbing.
As a teacher?
As a TA, because I don't have my QTS at the time.
Yet.
So yeah. So at the time I was just TA subbing, and I ended up in a school that had the most amazing forest school area.
Okay. Was it in Devon?
It was in Devon. It's in Dawlish. It was a ASD school, and I just fell in love with their forest school site, so any excuse to be in there, I was in there. I got to know the forest school lead at the time really well, who also did his training with the Outdoors Group. And then he was actually moving on. So it was just a perfect timing, really. I was there, I was looking for a full-time placement. He was leaving the forest school, and I was really interested. So I took on his role as forest school instructor, and part of that was having to do the training, which I did through the Outdoors Group.
Okay.
I was there for about 3.5 years. Really happy years, but again, my career just wasn't really going anywhere, and the sort of progression route wasn't obvious for me, and so I just started looking out of curiosity, and I stumbled upon the pastoral tutor role for the Outdoors School.
Okay.
And having done the training with the Outdoors Group, which I absolutely loved, it was like, okay, I was curious, so I applied. I came to interview just to really get a feel for what you guys do.
Yeah.
It wasn't a guarantee that I would take the job if I got offered it. I just wanted to know how you guys use the forest school to do real education. And I did the interview, and that was that. Craig phoned me up that afternoon and was like, we want to hire you. I was like, I want to work here. And there was no going back, really, and that was 4 years ago in April. So
oh really? Wow.
I've been here for quite a while.
You've been here basically almost since the start then?
Yeah, not long after the start. I was a few years behind, but yeah.
21?
So yeah, if you guys opened in
2019, September 2019.
Yeah, and I would have started about 2021. No, it would have been 2022, because it's 4 years this April.
Oh yeah,
so 2022 I started
nice. Okay.
in April.
And South Brent was open at that time?
South Brent was open.
Yeah.
South Brent had 3 groups, and they were just making the 4th group, which is why I came in.
Yeah.
And just hit the ground running, really. Like, as soon as I got here, it just felt like this is everything that I believe education should be. Yeah. Minus a few things which I've helped to, work with the school. And I think we are, as every sort of term goes on, we are improving, and it's just awesome. Like, as we sit here looking around the site, it's just awesome to look at all the things that we get to do with these learners that have struggled in other placements, and we get to make them successful and do these projects. And
like as we're sitting here, I'm looking at that structure over there that wasn't here last time I came.
Yeah, so that's a learner built classroom, I think it's going to be. It's epic.
Okay, so the kids are building it.
The kids are building their own classroom over there.
That's so cool.
You've got the football post and the rugby post that my group put up. There's the environment area we're building, which is going to be a massive pond.
Oh, amazing.
At the moment, it's just a big muddy puddle, but that's epic.
That's how all ponds
When you're
start.
a kid with sensory needs, a big muddy puddle is all you need. So it is awesome to work somewhere that puts those learner ideas and learner interest first before education.
Yeah.
Obviously education is important, but if a learner isn't in a place to receive education, why push when you could just take a step back and say, hey, we can build this and I can put education into this and I can start to get you to feel successful, and then they might hopefully turn around and say, do you know what, I want to learn more now. And that is such a rewarding thing to do, having worked in PRUs and other places, even the forest
just very quickly for people that aren't listening, a PRU is a
pupil referral unit, so it's for kids that have generally been excluded from multiple placements, and it's but even the forest school job I had, I would have learners come in. I got a great example. We had a session one day and we were making leaf crowns. There was this one quite complex needs learner that was non-verbal and didn't engage in those sort of things, and all she wanted to do was take her shoes off and stand in a muddy puddle. I facilitated that. I had no problem with that. I had a zone for that, so I would say that she's more than happy to go up with a LSA, like her support assistant, and go and experience the mud and go and have that lovely enrichment time when she was in my forest school. And the teacher pulled me aside and said, why didn't she make a leaf crown? The rest of the class made a leaf crown. And it was almost like the finished project was more important than the experience. And so I think I see that a lot, and it's actually nice to work somewhere where actually the experience is more important than the finished project. That's quite a rewarding thing to do.
You started as pastoral tutor and now you're the lead tutor, right?
So I applied for pastoral tutor, and then there was a need for a curriculum tutor, which wasn't in my comfort zone at all. But I was persuaded, and I'm glad I did it. I was persuaded to take on that role to learn a little bit more about the curriculum and how we do curriculum here. So I actually was a curriculum tutor for a good 2.5 years. And then I became a lead tutor.
And so just for people that don't know how the school works, so in each group you've got a lead tutor
and a tutor. So we used to have a curriculum tutor and a pastoral tutor, and then we changed to have a lead tutor and a tutor with the idea that actually the curriculum and the pastoral are kind of one and the same.
They should be intertwined.
And so having two separate tutors for that was kind of confusing, because you'd have the pastoral tutor pushing for their interventions and the curriculum tutor pushing, and actually you should all be coming in from
on the same page.
One session could be both pastoral and curriculum based. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So
and how many kids are in your group?
So we have 8 kids in each group.
And you've got other members of staff as well.
And then so you'll have your woodland LSA, as well as your tutor and your lead tutor, your woodland LSA, your learning assistant, and any one-to-one staff that you have as well. Which is really, they are the tip of the sword a lot of the time. Those one-to-one learners can make or break a day. So to have solid staff to be able to support them is really important. It really, really sort of makes the day.
Excellent. So I didn't realise that you'd done your forest school leader before you came to us, and so you've already told us about what prompted you to do it. It was because of your work you're doing. So what were your expectations of the training course before you attended, and did the course compare, and did it meet those expectations?
So obviously, as I said, I was working in Orchard Manor with the guy that had done the forest school training already. So he gave me a bit, and he really enjoyed it as well. So he kind of told me, go and do this course. It's really, really rewarding. You'll get a lot from it. So I kind of went in with a little bit of just optimism. There wasn't much expectation. I was just I've heard this is really good. And wasn't really felt any different afterwards. I think the 5 days were really, really valuable. And then the being able to contact Neil afterwards with any sort of follow-up questions or areas, he was always responsive. So
who did your training? Was it Neil or Tom? Okay, Neil.
I had Neil and Nick a little bit. And just they were brilliant at it. The way they structured it and the way they paced it and the way that they checked understanding and allowed for people to not understand. And it was almost like we are with the learners, where there was no expectation really apart from just go and have the experience and get whatever you need to get from that experience, but came away with so many ideas and then enthusiasm to go into my role that I was already kind of doing, but just more prepared and better able to know why we do it this way.
Did anything surprise you about the time in the woods that you went
I think the big surprise was the pace of it. Having just come out of university, and I've done some other CPD courses, and it's all very quick and it's all very learn, evidence, and actually the slow pace of it, we'll learn for a bit, but then we'll just chill by the fire and chat and hang out, and we'll allow you guys to talk about your experiences with each other. I really enjoyed that. It didn't feel like we were having to go in and complete an awful lot of stuff to get through the day. It felt like the days were very much a balance of learning, but also again, like we do with our learners, experiencing and having that chill time and having that time to reflect. And
That's what I felt, and because you have to do the woodland crafts, don't you, like during the week? I remember thinking, I wasn't expecting to spend like 2 hours every day just sitting carving a spoon.
Yeah, exactly that. Like there was no pressure.
Yeah.
There was no like, this has to be done by 12 because we've got to move on, guys. It was like, hey, like you can whittle while we just talk about this. And it just felt really like forest school should be, but in adult training. Yeah. Which was nice. It was nice that they model that to their trainees. Yeah. Model the approach and model the forest school ethos.
From the get-go.
Yeah,
absolutely. What was your favourite bit of the practical training course?
Probably the campfire cooking, I'll be honest. I'm not a big cook. Okay. It's not something that's ever been a passion of mine. Yeah. And actually they ignited a bit of a passion through that, through the fat campfire cooking session and actually realising what can be done on a campfire. And actually since doing the training, I've gone big. Have you? So I've cooked lasagnas on fire pits. I've done crispy chili beef with Carl's expert guidance. Yeah. I've deep fat fried stuff. We've cooked stuff in like nachos and stuff in Dutch ovens. Like just
the lasagna is the most impressive. I think. Like,
just realising like there is nothing you can't cook on a campfire if you have the resources and the equipment to do it. And that was really eye-opening for me because, you know, I'm a skateboarder at heart and I've lived on microwave meals and pizza ovens for most of my life. And actually they ignited a bit of a passion around making awesome meals on a campfire. And actually campfire cooking has become a bit of a hobby of mine that I do with my own kids now.
Oh really? Nice.
I think it's really rewarding when you do it on a campfire rather than using your standard oven and hob. And I like campfire cooking.
What do your kids like to cook?
So we love doing the nachos in the Dutch oven. That's something that we do a lot.
Have you got a fire in your garden?
Yeah, so we've got a fire pit in the back of our garden.
Oh, amazing.
Which we get out at this time of year. So we do the nachos. The popcorn's always a fun one for the kids. That's always watching the kernels pop. A sensory. My kids love that.
Do you do it with the two sieves?
Two sieves on a stick.
I think it's the best way to do it. Like watching them inside is amazing.
And you heat it up on the embers and the kids get to hold it as they pop. So like I said, it's sensory. It's really nice. My kids have done it hundreds of times and they still love doing it. But then the other things we do our barbecues on our fire pit. So the kebabs and stuff like that. Just
I do think everything tastes better when it's cooked on a fire. I remember when I did my course, I got ill towards the end of the weekend. I was really kind of dragging myself in, and I think on the last day they did like a big curry, and it was just like the best curry I've ever eaten.
Well, exactly that. You know, I'm not a huge, lover of vegetables, unfortunately. Like I wasn't brought up that way. And actually we did a paella, which was a vegetarian paella. And I was sat there like, oh man, I'm not going to like this. Like I'm going to have to eat it in front of all these people and I'm going to have to
pretend I like it.
And I finished the bowl without any struggle. It was like, wow, this is
really good.
This is so good. And actually, like since then, my journey into eating more healthily has also been ignited because I'm not getting any younger and it is important to look after yourself. And actually, I now eat more healthy and more considerate of vegetables.
And you can role model that to your kids and the learners.
Exactly that, and that's what we do here. When we cook with the learners, we also eat with the learners. We model that. You know, if we're making a dish that is heavily vegetable based, we will model it and eat it, and it's not gross. It's it's actually really nice. Like I think the thing is I grew up in quite a low income family, so my idea of vegetables were always frozen vegetables. Which are kind of tasteless. And when you start eating fresh vegetables,
you're like, oh, okay. Actually flavour.
Okay, vegetables aren't the problem. It's the frozen vegetables that maybe are the problem. And it needs must. My parents had to do it that way, and they still tried the best to get vegetables into us. But eating organically, I mean, we live not far from Riverford, and whenever we get a chance to pop into Riverford, organic vegetables and fresh food is lovely.
It's the way forward, that might be my favourite answer that someone's done for their favourite bit of the training course in the woods. Like, I don't think anyone else has talked about it. People have talked about like realising that they love carving and like that, or that like getting to grips with knots. But I think I love that it's impacted your whole life. That's great. How manageable was it? I'll move on, otherwise I'll talk about campfire food for ages. You can tell I haven't had breakfast. How manageable was it completing the coursework whilst working full time? Like, talk to us about that.
So I was kind of lucky that I was in a forest school instructor job already. So all of the lesson planning stuff was stuff that was already. So I was just evidencing what I was also doing. But I also did my training in the year of COVID, which meant that there was a big chunk where I was still in school because we were outdoors, but I was only taking on 1 or 2 learners at a time, and it was my timetable was very spread out.
Okay.
So I actually had a bit of a blessing there that I was able to knuckle down with some of the more academic parts of it.
Yeah.
But none of it was overly challenging. If there was areas that I wasn't 100% sure, Neil was always there to reach out to and would get back to me with what I needed to be doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the practical stuff you do on the course anyway.
Yeah.
So you're just taking that evidence that you've done and then writing an essay about it. And I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the bits around like further investigation into flora and fauna and different types of like woodland and how that can either encourage or discourage flora and fauna.
Yeah.
I found it all quite eye-opening. And then my degree was in education studies, so I studied education for 3 years.
Okay.
So Montessori wasn't new to me.
Yeah.
Piaget wasn't new to me. But actually seeing how these things linked into what forest school ethos is, because ever since I did that Bernardo's placement, that was my understanding, was the best way to get stuff out of kids is just to lean into it and let it be learner-led, and actually really delving into how forest school encompasses that and how it kind of tries to encourage that. It wasn't a challenge for me. It was actually quite
really
rewarding.
enjoyable.
Yeah, it was
Nice.
rewarding. It was arguing for what I believe in anyway.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was writing an essay about something that I felt,
I'm not really sure about
you
this.
should have them. You should be making them learn. Really.
Yeah.
I actually did it and was
I guess you're already on the path.
I was quite passionate about it anyway.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So you weren't having to relearn anything.
No, it was validating what I already
knew.
Yeah.
Excellent. Tell us about how the forest school side of things ties into your work here, because obviously not all the staff here are forest school trained. So tell us about how it is for you.
No,
and
so
how you
obviously
use it.
not all the staff are forest school trained, but they have forest school knowledge and they have that, and you wouldn't come here unless you had some sort of like of the outdoors or some sort of passion for something like that. But the forest school skills we use daily. And we use them in different ways. So it could be to co-regulate with a learner. It could just be a walk in the woods or a bit of a therapeutic, sit in a hammock and listen to the sounds. It could be construction and cooking and how we do these safely. That isn't necessarily part of the training to get this job, but we do it on a, like as we said when we looked around, there's constructions everywhere. There's little projects going on everywhere. There's go-karts. All of this requires not only skills on how to use tools, but how to use tools safely. Yeah. And that is a big part of the forest school, is how to do things safely, which we use here all the time. But really just immersion to nature. Yeah. And that biophilia, like just being around nature. We do that every single day. We use the nature every single day in projects or in different things like making mandala circles, or you could just go on a treasure hunt, a scavenger hunt, ask the kid to find the shiniest leaf or the scratchiest leaf. It's used all the time, and it helps. Like biophilia is massive, and I really believe in it.
You explain for
so biophilia is the idea that being around nature will just make us happy just by being around nature. Just being immersed to nature brings on a bit of happiness. It makes you feel more comfortable, and we see that daily with our kids here. Your typical school may have a plant, it may have a little patio with a couple of plants, but it's not got abundance of nature, whereas we've got the buzzards, we've got lizards, we've got wasp spiders. Randomly we found one day.
That's cool.
We found a wasp spider one day, which was like a spider which had the back of a wasp.
That's very cool.
Just observing that spider gave all those kids that observed it a really good feeling of being connected with nature. That's forest school, but it's also experiential. It's giving learners an interest. We had about 8 learners stood around watching it and feeding it grasshoppers, which, when watching it go and spin them into a web. And all of them were settled, all of them were engaged, all of them, I didn't know what a wasp spider was, so me and the staff I was with, we Googled it, and we read about it to the learners, and they listened to us, and they were interested. It wasn't a forced thing to do, it was a genuine moment of real interest.
I was about to say, those opportunities for learning present themselves so much more naturally, don't they? I was at Shillingford, and a bird had fallen out of its nest, and the whole group were getting the bird books out, trying to identify it, trying to work out where mum was,
exactly,
wondering what we could do, and it was everything just was for half an hour was just focused on this tiny baby.
We had
bird.
A lizard basking in our classroom in the summer, so we came in the morning and there was a lizard just basking in the sun.
Nice.
And same, the learners wanted to know all about it. They wanted to know why it was in our classroom, why it wasn't really moving when we were getting close to it. Is it poorly? And having to explain to them that no, it's a, we had a really good lesson where we explained how lizards and cold-blooded animals work. Just naturally,
just from it being on your thing.
Just at our feet. You couldn't plan that, you couldn't write that as a plan. It just happens and you lean into it.
And I always forget, I talked to Tom about the cows that you've got here, Do the cows feature much?
The cows feature loads when we have them. The therapy cows. They're not here at the moment.
I was just looking for them, being like, I'm not sure.
They come back in February.
Very funny.
Very good, yeah. I got cow puns for days. But, they feature. I mean, when we first got them, we had a couple of learners that were quite obsessed with them, really going up there every day. And cows get to know your smell. Okay. So they can learn up to 100 people's smells.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
then they start to recognise you, and they have 3 zones of, like, fear sort of thing. So as they recognise you more and more, they'll let you get more and more closer. So we had 2 cows that were really comfortable. The kids would go up and stroke them. Yeah. And we went up there one day and we did our learning in the field. We took a picnic blanket and some lunch up there.
Oh my gosh,
and some
that's
books.
lush.
And we decided we were going to do the whole day in the field. It was middle of summer, so why not? We decided we were going to do the whole day up in the cow field. So we were sat there doing our session, and one of the cows came and lay right next to us. Oh. And I'm quite skittish around them, so I was trying to model being calm, and but the learners were like telling me, like, Chris, relax, he's okay, like he's not going to lie on you. And actually having that massive eye like only 2 foot away from me, I couldn't stop looking at it, and I kind of like forgot what I was supposed to be doing. And we just spent ages just watching this cow.
That's lush.
It was absolutely awesome.
Maybe I need to come next year to do some cow therapy with your learners.
Cow therapy,
they can help me.
It's great.
I'm really skittish around them too, so I had a bad encounter with them. So when they came, I was like, maybe I should be brave, but I have not been brave yet. But next summer.
They're very tame and very lovely. And now, like I said, the farmer gave us a good briefing on how to know, if their ears pick up and they're starting to, you don't get any closer.
When to leave. Yeah.
But actually, the cows will approach you if you stand there for long enough. They'll come up to you with curiosity if they feel comfortable.
Nice.
So
and I love that about the learners helping you when you were a bit skittish as well. Like, that's, I think I talk about it all the time, but I'm guessing you see it all the time, where there's that kind of like the learning going both ways. Like, absolutely, yeah. And actually, one of my favourite things about my job is when you teach a learner something and you hear them help another learner with the same thing that you've taught them. Yeah. So, for example, like one of my lines that I use with the learners is, it's okay to not be okay. It's not okay to make others not okay. Yeah. I will say that, as part of my interventions or as part of my chats with learners, and actually hearing another learner go up to somebody else that's struggling and say, hey buddy, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to make us not okay. Yeah. It's really rewarding. That's
seeing
really
that,
nice. Yeah.
That peer on peer help and
and that they've paid attention to what you said.
And that something does get in there.
Yeah, stuck in.
It is nice. It's nice to see them help each other and use the supporting strategies we use on each other. Yeah. Suggest that one of them goes and has a timeout or something. Yeah. It's lovely.
That's so nice. We, over the last 7 seasons, have talked quite a lot about constructivism and experiential education and about project-based learning, which are all, well, they're not all big words, but constructivism is. So I might need you to quickly redefine it for people that haven't listened to our episodes about constructivism. But how does Forest School lend itself to these elements of our approach to education? But start by quickly giving someone a nutshell of what constructivism
I feel on the spot.
Sorry.
Constructivism.
I mean, I should have Googled it because I do know, but when you're like, I can't do a
constructivism. So my understanding of constructivism is it's the idea that you can draw learning out, and that actually the learner has their own idea of what they want to learn, and that if you allow it and you lean into it and you go with their intrinsic motivation, you can find the learning in there. Yeah. Whereas positivism is you need to learn this. Yeah. So it's like what our schools
more prescriptive.
To pass a test you need to learn this, which is not something we don't do, but we don't do it till a learner is ready. So when a learner says to us, I would really like to go on to be an engineer, and we say you're going to need your functional skills, and they say, okay, help me to do that. Yeah. Then we may bring in that positivist approach of like, you will need to learn this. But mostly what we do, because of the nature of our learners and the neurodiversity and trauma-based learners, is we don't ask for that. We do the constructivism, which is we draw the learning out of what they're interested in, and a lot of what they're interested in will be safe space building or swing building, or the really fun stuff. That doesn't have to be a blank session. That doesn't have to be a wasted time. There is learning that can be brought out of that, whether it's PHSE learning or learning about themselves in our phase 1 head-ins, which is like around our own regulation and understanding our impact on others. But it could also be like we did go-karts, and part of go-karts was having to explain to the children how steering works. And it was out of my remit, but luckily we had Carl, who is a really practical man, who was able to explain to learners about a wider wheelbase and how that will steer, and then if you have a smaller wheelbase, and watching the kids sort of trial and error it and do one and then learn from it. That is constructivism. That is, drawing the learning out of what the learners are going to do. They want to do it. The posts are the same. that wasn't something.
The goalposts.
That was a learner came to us and said this school needs goalposts, and we said, well, do you want to help us build it? And then that became a project that was very constructivist, because actually that learner identified that's what he wanted to do, and he was able to say, as part of this, I could be drawing out this, or I could be drawing out that, and it's encouraging that other big word, metacognition, which is a very big word.
I didn't mention that one, but
it's trying to encourage that metacognition of a learner knowing how they learn and what they want to learn and how they can achieve that. But that needs to be facilitated. That needs to be supported.
You need to give them the tools and the
scaffolding. You need to scaffold it. A learner isn't
one of our favourite words.
A learner isn't going to come in on day one and say, hey, I learned best doing this. This is, they need to learn this. You need to learn it with them. And actually, I'm still on my journey of metacognition and how I best learn, and I procrastinate when I'm stressed, and how do I conquer that? And so it's something that helps me as well.
And it's interesting what you said about when they're ready, they might feel like 13 or 12 being like, I want to be an engineer, or whatever, how do I do that? Because we had Naomi Fisher on the podcast, who is I'm going to get her job title wrong. I think she's an educational psychologist, but she did this amazing kind of description of what learning looks like if we lead kids to it, and she talked about it being play-based for a lot longer.
So I spoke to Chev at length about this, and I really like the idea. When you do EYFS, you sort of your preschool stuff, it's very play-based. It's very much, you have stations of like dress up, or you'll have a sand pit, and they go around with a tick box and they tick where they've seen a good social interaction or where they've seen some emotional regulation, and then boom, you're thrown into, you need to learn this, you need to learn this, all the way up until you get to your college years, when you get to then say, I would like to learn this in this way. And actually, I really like what Chev says, is why do we just do it all the way through? Why do we have to in the middle bit?
And that's what she says. She's like, if you leave kids to it and you're not trying to put them into the system, she's like, they'll be play-based till 9 or 10. They tend to be later readers. She was like, then they'll tend to have like special interests. She was like, and then usually, she was like, you see it all the time with like home ed kids that at 13, 14, suddenly go, actually, this is what I want to do, and they'll come to the parents and they'll do like a GCSE in like 6 months.
So I've got my own two kids that are both in mainstream school. My boy is academically able, and he's really like he fits, but I can see that he's got his areas of interest that the school are not necessarily picking up on, because there's a lot of kids in the classroom, and he is just able to play that system, and he's able to do it, and he's finding it quite easy. Whereas my little girl is quite different, and actually she's a creative genius. She can make anything out of anything. Her artwork is incredible for her age, but she's not hot on her reading and stuff, and she was on an individualized learning plan when she was only 5 years old, and they were saying like, oh, she's not keeping up with age related on her phonics, and I'm like, she's 5,
leave her alone.
And have you seen her drawings, and have you seen how awesome she is? And actually give her time, and when she needs to learn, she'll and actually we're seeing, and she's now 7, and she has now started to get that intrinsic want to read, because it's going to help her with her artwork. She started to play games with Leo, and actually reading is a big part of it. She plays Dress to Impress, and she needs to read the theme. It's simple things like that have made her go, actually, I'm going to break this down. I'm going to learn to read. I've read to her since she was a baby, but now she reads to me, and that came about from her wanting it, not me saying, we would, because we had to hit the school targets that we had. So in the evening, I'd get her to read a couple pages of her book, and then I'd read to her, and it'd be really reluctant. She'd really not want to do it. And now she actually wants to read to me and not me read. And she's like, no, watch how good. And she reads the Gruffalo, and she reads. She's just started reading a Beast Quest book, and I have to help her with the odd word. But like,
my 10-year-old is the same. He was a really late reader. Like, he wasn't reading at 9, and I was just kind of like, because he was my youngest and I'd seen like the development being different because I'm home educated, I was like, I'm just going to sit with it, like, and trust, like, I read to him every day, I'm going to trust that it'll click. And then like he spent the weekend with my mum, and I went to pick them up, and he was in bed reading Harry Potter, and I was just like, a year ago, like, I wouldn't have even thought, and it was like in 1 year he's gone from being like, I can't do it.
But what kind of grated me was, we would have these parents' evenings where they would focus really heavily on the age-related phonics and how we can support Luna, and how she can, and no one ever said, oh my God, her artwork
is great.
Wow, how are we gonna harness that? How are we gonna develop that? How are we gonna push her to like challenge herself with that? She does it herself, luckily. But it would be really nice for someone to be like, I've seen how great she is. I've got this project scheme of work. Like you just said, she could be doing an art GCSE way before she's GCSE age. She could be doing an art degree. My boy could probably be looking at his maths GCSE but he won't until he gets to year 10 because that's the school system. But he loves maths, he loves times tables, he's very logistical, like in his head. That's his way of unpicking the world.
So with constructivism, obviously we're able to spot those strengths and help
encourage
them.
So in a constructivist model, you know, you would say to someone like my boy, why don't we look at, you know, doing your foundation in maths now? Like, why don't we start, if that's what you're interested in, why don't we look at that? Or my girl, you'd be like, hey, like, would you like to work towards a qualification in art? And actually a part of that, the reading would come. You know, the problem solving would come in. And she might get halfway through that and go, no, I'm not really enjoying this now. I'm really into science. So why not?
We'll switch over, exactly,
why not? Like, put a pin in it and let's go do science for a bit.
Absolutely. Predictably, Chris, we've gone off on a tangent, which I knew would happen because I always love chatting to you about education. But so let's go back to how forest school lends itself to that constructivism.
So it's woven into everything we do. You know, even our core learning can be done utilising the forest school ethos. You can read by a campfire, you can find a quiet spot in the woods and have a little bit of a mindfulness session before getting into reading. The numerous projects we do, such as like making the ponds, the rugby posts, that we make with the learners, these are all forest school ethos, you know, constructivist, but it is actually a part of my timetable and it's a part of our planned sessions and drawing the learning out. So I'd say it's woven into everything, but the art and the sort of the skill that we have as staff is drawing the learning out of those experiences. So it could be a bit of emotional coaching. It could be a learner's had a dysregulation and gone for a walk in the woods and you start naming, like, you seem a lot calmer in these woods, like you know, that or the PHSE stuff. You could be talking about body image, even forest school can be woven into that. Your practical learning, using it as positive reinforcement, just the general enrichment of our site,
being in the space,
having this as a site, as a school, is very forest schooly. And you know, I have a learner that likes to, when he's sat doing his session, he'll just have his feet in the mud, bare feet in the mud, having that sensory input going on, keeping him regulated, whilst I'm trying to teach him something that he needs to learn. You know, we're still using those forest school skills,
using it in everything
we do.
And I mean, obviously, it goes to the kind of learner-led side of things really easily as well, doesn't it? Because, they can follow their interests. And
they know where they're happy, they know where they struggle. I've got some learners that prefer to be by the fire pit. I've got some learners that prefer to be in their safe spaces. You know, I've got some learners that prefer to be in the classroom. They have this as a space that they can actually pick what works for them. I've got some learners that really like to plant trees, as you can see.
I was just about to say, like, the tree planting is awesome.
So let's plant some trees, guys. Like, let's improve our site. I got other learners that like to break trees. So it's a case of, like, let's go find some dead ash to break, rather than breaking the lovely trees that are still growing in saplings.
And thriving,
It's woven into everything we do.
So I'd love to know what forest school means to you. Like, if you had to, what would you say is like the most crucial or important part of this kind of philosophy?
So for me, forest school is more than just a set of skills. You know, a lot of it is some, you know, tying knots, being able to light a fire, tool work, but it's so much more than that. It's an understanding of education and my notes, and essentially giving young people those living valuable experiences. So it links to your Montessori and your Piaget, your play-based experiential learning. That is the biggest part of forest school to me. Is I did it when I did my placement with Bernardo's. We had the raft building challenge, but being the traumatized kids that they were, there was no, you have to finish a raft. You know, it was very much like, okay, would you like to do this? Oh, you don't want to do, so do you want to, maybe you could just be our person that does the start and the flag, so we can make a flag. And actually that early experience of using play-based approaches and experiential learning, that was the spark that ignited everything. And then when I got to forest school and I saw that's a big part of the forest school ethos, for me, that's the most important part. And that is then becomes a part of my pedagogy. So I'm here now and this is lovely and it's easy. If I went to another school, I would take that pedagogy or core approach with me. You know, we don't use PACE here, but that idea of being PACE, so playful, acceptant, curious and empathetic. You know, it's a
nice phrase.
And it's not a lot of schools will use it as a model, but it's just a part of pedagogy. It's the same as my Thrive training. I did my Thrive training, which is all about meet and need, and again, that just becomes part of your pedagogy. It's not a set thing, tick box thing that you have to do. I use my Thrive training every day. I use my PACE approach every day. I use my forest school every day. Just in my way that I am with
Yeah.
the kids. It's not a tick box thing. It's not like, oh, I have to say that I've met these needs, or I've done it this way.
Yeah.
It just becomes a part of who you are and how you believe education can be done differently. And so, just knowing how much those benefits of real life experiences with the nature can reconnect people to the planet and to themselves, and to use to learn emotional regulation and emotional intelligence. That's the part of forest school that I think is most important.
Nice. Lush. Thanks so much for your time today. I do really appreciate it, given that you've got a really busy day and you're in the middle of, you were saying, your teacher training as well. So you've got a lot on in life at the moment. So I do appreciate that you came down early before the kids arrived.
It's okay, we're in the sun, so
I was going to say, the sun has hit us now,
Yeah, I'm quite happy here. I don't really want to go back to work.
Yeah, for those listening, it's really cold today. I think the cold snap's arrived, but the sun has just hit us, so we're kind of sat in a meadow on a picnic bench, so it's a pretty good way to start a Monday morning.
Not a bad way to start Monday.
Before I start to wrap up though, is there anything else you wanted to say that we kind of haven't covered?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on education in general. It is really difficult in today's age, and I can't speak about education before I became an educator because I don't know, but I have a lot of friends that work in education. I've got a friend who's a science teacher in a mainstream secondary school. I've got a friend that's a primary school teacher. I've got friends that work in different PRUs from my years of experience and just staying connected with people.
Yeah.
And everyone I talk to tells me that education is really hard in my sector. And I think every sector of education is becoming increasingly harder in the world that we live in, with the difference that we have in technology and social media, the difference we have in sort of the planet that we're growing up on, and the the fact that we are aware that the planet is slowly dying, and like I see it in my own children. Education's really difficult nowadays, and actually giving kids a drive and giving kids a passion and a desire, and start fighting the apathy, I call it. I have this conversation with my friends a lot. As educators, we are battling apathy on a daily basis, and we hear the sayings a lot of the time: square pegs through round holes. We are living in a more increasingly neurodiverse planet. There is an increase in alternative provisions and kids that are needing them. And so really I just want to make the point of the importance of exploring and trying different things which are backed up by research and theory, as is our approach. It's not like Chev's just this crazy guy that's like, I want kids just to go in the woods and play. He is backed up by a lot of theory and a lot of research, but he's also brave enough to pioneer something different and say, let's try something different. And it might not work, but trying it. So one of my favourite quotes is from Sir Francis Bacon, who said, knowledge is power. And I think that's really important in education. The more we could learn about how to deliver education, the more powerful we are as educators, the more approaches we have. So this is one way of doing it, and the constructivist model is brilliant, and I really support it. But just by learning it, and now I'm doing my teacher training, and part of that is learning how routines are embedded, and more of the mainstream approach. None of it is going to weaken me. None of it is going to make me less of a practitioner. If anything, the more I know, the more I have to draw upon when I'm tackling a difficult situation, or a learner that's got some really profound complex needs, or even a learner that really wants to learn, and I'm like, oh wow, like you want to and you just got to, knowledge is power, and the more you can learn about education, and the more you can learn about how child development works,
we can identify, you're saying about your friends in different educational establishments, like saying about how hard it is, but like, because we're having these conversations, because there's so much research going on and people like us trying new things, like, makes me feel really hopeful that in a decade people might be like, oh no, of course we do things this way, of course, like, we don't, and like, of course we don't expect everyone to have this knowledge of phonics at 5, so like, hopefully things are shifting.
That's why I'm still here and I still work, because I generally believe that we are paving the way, and that, the future can be bright. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom, and this is a horrible world we live in. It can be like, we are getting really good at learning about how to do this stuff. So
excellent. Well, that was a really lovely, nice, positive way for us to end, I think. So very quickly, I've just been asking everyone these 3 questions, and I know your learners are coming in half an hour, so I'll be very quick. How do you relax?
So your typical ways. So my music, I listen to a lot of rock music, emo rock, indie rock, heavy metal, just rock music is massive to me. Spending time with my kids and my family, like a dog walk, or just eating dinner, or watching a movie in the night. But those things aside, skateboarding. Skateboarding is my meditation. I'm fairly good at skateboarding. I can go fairly fast and fairly high, and it's fairly risky.
Yeah.
So I have to be present. I have to be in that moment. If I'm going to try and grind around a bowl corner at 30 miles an hour, I have to be there, focused, looking at my feet, looking at where I'm going. I'm in that moment. I can't be thinking about what my lesson is tomorrow or how I'm going to approach this difficult conversation with a member of staff. I can't be in my head. I have to be really in that moment. So skateboarding is my meditation. It's my release. It's how I switch off from I have an ADHD brain. I heard a quote once that having ADHD is having a Ferrari for a brain and bikes of a brake. Brakes of a bike.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And ever since hearing that, I was like, oh, okay, so I have ADHD then.
That's why we've tangented so much. We have two of us doing that for the last 45 minutes.
Straight away, as soon as I heard that saying, I was like, oh, okay, so I definitely, undiagnosed, I have a very fast brain. It's always thinking about work, home, future stuff, like always. And as soon as I get on my skateboard and I get into skating, all of that stuff goes. And all I'm doing is enjoying that moment, enjoying that feeling. And I always come away from skateboarding with such a clearer idea of how I'm going to move forward in anything I'm doing. It really helps me to compartmentalize and subconsciously, like, that's all happening while I'm in the moment. And then I come away and I'm like, oh, why don't I just use this strategy with this learner? Or, oh, I'll just have this conversation this way. It helps me to stop thinking. And then my brain will do its job while I'm not thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are you reading or listening to right now?
So I'm not reading or listening to anything. We just got Animal Farm for our group, which is George Orwell. I read it when I was younger, and I am tempted to read it again now that I'm older, because when I read it when I was younger, I just heard, I read about the pigs revolting and the animal, and I saw, and actually now I want to read it again and see if I can see the political influence in it, because it was a very politically influenced book. But I didn't see that at the time. So I do want to read, but at the moment I'm so busy with my course and my job that actually reading is something that I never have time for anymore, unfortunately.
Probably reading lots of teacher training stuff.
I'm reading a lot of teacher training stuff, a lot of Department of Education stuff.
Fascinating, I'm
fascinating stuff.
And finally, why is being outdoors important to you?
I grew up in a very poor income, sort of council housed, it was quite a tough upbringing. I was in a behavioural unit myself in primary school, which was called the Angry Boys Unit, which you wouldn't get away with now, but it was called by all the staff the Angry Boys Unit. And I had a lot of SEMH problems myself, and the outdoors was something that I always went to. So obviously skateboarding became my passion, but when I was younger, it was mountain biking, it was just running around, it was just being out playing manhunt in a field or something. We had 3 rope swings in our council estate that all went to the same point, and we would digging. We dug a massive hole once when we were kids. I've always felt that the outdoors is where I get to meet my need. And actually, so now seeing that happen to others is something that I'm really, really behind. I would struggle to teach in a classroom. The lights and the confinement of it, it does make me feel quite edgy, and that's why I don't think I necessarily enjoyed the first part of my degree. I'm worried about my mainstream placement I have to do, because I find classrooms confining, and I find buildings confining, and actually once you open all that out and you've just got nothing but space, I can do the same thing, but I can do it so much happier. So that's big to me. Like, it helped me in my childhood massively, being outdoors.
Lush. Thanks so much for your time today, Chris.
No worries.
Really appreciate it. A massive thank you again to Chris for coming early into work to talk to us about his work at the outdoor school and how his forest school leader training influences the way he works. It was really great to talk about constructivism and biophilia and a whole host of other things. We hope that you enjoyed the episode. If you did, as always, please do rate the podcast, subscribe to it, share it with your friends, do all the things that mean that more people can find us. After this, we'll be taking a 3-week break rather than 2 weeks because of Christmas. So we'll be back on the 2nd of January with another episode. But until then, thanks for listening.